All right, let's talk about a decision that, at first glance, just doesn't make any sense. It involves one of the biggest athletes on the planet, a massive deal, and a choice that could totally change the game for sports stars everywhere. So this is the big question, right? This is the heart of it all. Virat Kohli, a guy whose name is basically synonymous with success, did exactly this. He looked at a huge, guaranteed payday and just said, nope. The question we all have is, why on earth would he do that? And look, let's be absolutely clear about the kind of money we're talking about here. The renewal offer from Puma was reportedly around 300 crore rupees. That's about 35 million US dollars. This wasn't just a nice offer. It was one of the biggest endorsement deals ever for an Indian athlete. And he walked away. So you gotta understand, this isn't a story about some contract negotiation that just fell apart. Not at all. This is about a massive change in strategy. We're looking at how Kohli took what should have been his biggest paycheck ever and turned it into a major pivot, a whole new direction for his career. And that's the key, right? This decision wasn't about trying to get an even bigger salary from someone else. It was about choosing to play a completely different game by a completely different set of rules. He had two paths in front of him, and they led to two very, very different futures. And when you lay it out like this, the choice becomes, well, pretty stark. On one side, you have the traditional Puma model. You get a guaranteed massive fee, you're the face of the brand. But you don't really have a say in how the company is run. On the other side, the Agilitas model. You get a piece of the company, actual equity. You're not just an ambassador, you're a strategic partner with a real seat at the table where the big decisions are made. Okay, let's follow the money here. His old Puma deal was already enormous, something like 110 cores over 8 years. The new one would have been even bigger. That's safe, predictable cash in the bank. The Agilitas deal? It's the complete opposite. He's putting his own skin in the game, a serious investment in exchange for ownership. The risk is way higher, sure, but the potential reward? It's totally uncapped. It's tied to how big they can make this thing grow. He's trading a sure thing for a shot at the moon. So the numbers make a certain kind of sense, but believe me, this story is about way more than just money. This whole pivot wasn't just about the structure of the deal, it was really about the people involved and the trust that was already there. And this quote right here, it just nails it. This is the difference between being the celebrity face on a billboard and having an actual voice in the boardroom, the voice that helps decide what product to make, where to put that billboard, and what it's even going to say.
So who could possibly convince him to take this kind of leap of faith? A guy named Abhishek Ganguly, the former head of Puma India. And this is so important. Kohli had worked with him for years. They already had a great relationship. Ganguly is the guy who knows the back end, the sourcing, the manufacturing, all the nuts and bolts. He didn't just sell Kohli some vague dream. He showed him a real, practical plan for building a serious company.
Now this is where the strategy gets really personal and, honestly, pretty genius. This whole move wasn't just about a new company, Agilitas. It was about finally unlocking the massive untapped potential of Kohli's own brand 1-8. So think about the journey for 1-8. When it was with Puma, it was a cool collaboration, right? But it lived inside Puma's world. Now, with Agilitas, it becomes its own engine for growth. We're talking about dedicated 1-8 stores, a huge expansion plan, all built on the Agilitas platform. The endgame? To make 1-8 a standalone global brand in its own right. And here's the bottom line, the real game changer. The 1-8 brand is no longer just a line item on Puma's revenue report. It's now an asset on its own balance sheet. All that value, all that intellectual property, it all flows directly to Kohli. He finally truly owns the growth of his brand. And you know, as big a deal as 1-8 is, the vision here is even bigger. This isn't just about one athlete building his personal brand. This is about trying to build a global sportswear giant that comes from India.
This is their mantra, their mission. Indian-born, globally ambitious. It's a powerful idea, right? The goal is to create homegrown brands that can compete with the huge international players on the world stage, not just have Indian athletes endorse them.
Okay, let's pause for a second, because you might have seen Kohli in some Adidas ads lately, and you're probably thinking, wait a minute, what's going on here? It's a totally fair question, and the answer actually shows just how smart this whole strategy is. It all comes down to this idea of a tactical endorsement. His main commitment, his ownership, his long-term play, that's all with Agilitas. But that doesn't mean he can't do a short-term, specific campaign with another brand like Adidas, as long as it doesn't clash with his main job as a founder and owner at Agilitas.
All right, so let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. When you put all the pieces together, you realize this wasn't just another business deal. This was a bet on his legacy. It was a strategic choice about what the next chapter of his life, the one after cricket, is going to look like.
So, what's the final score here? What's the main takeaway? Well, first, he chose ownership over a paycheck. Simple as that. He decided to prioritize long-term value creation over short-term cash. He took back control over his own brand's future. And in the process, he's basically writing a whole new playbook for what it means to be an athlete entrepreneur.
And that really leaves us with one big question for the future. Kohli has made his move. He's bet on himself and on ownership. So the question is, who's next? Are we about to see a wave of top athletes trade in that comfortable endorsement deal for a much riskier but maybe much more rewarding seat at the boardroom?